Our film begins with a girl named Tina who appears to be different animal-like. This causes her embarrassment about her appearance. We learn that she works as a customs officer where her extraordinary supernatural ability allows her to smell travelers, discern their emotions, helping her catch smugglers. One day at work she detects the scent of a traveler, realizes he has a bag with alcohol. She takes the bag from him. The young man insists he bought it, but she decides to slap him with the charge of smuggling instead of arresting him since he is so young. At the end of the day, she returns to her home in the woods. We learn that she accommodates a friend named Ronald who works as a dog trainer. At that moment she gets very scared when a dog attacks her, so Ronald steps and tells her he has a disease. She dismisses him, goes out to explore the woods where it becomes clear that she is very interested in nature, particularly animals. On the next day Tina arrives at work, engages in her hobby of smelling travelers. However, she stops one traveler for a search with her colleague who finds nothing in his bag. Tina is convinced he has something illegal, asks him for his phone. As soon as she smells it, a small chip comes out which the young man quickly attempts to swallow. They manage to retrieve it, arrest him. Afterward, Tina tries to smell a nearby traveler, closely resembling her, sharing similar animal-like physical traits. She asks to search him, but they only find insects, so she has to let him go because there is no incriminating evidence. After work, Tina visits her father at a nursing home, learns he is suffering from early Alzheimer's disease. She is very happy when he remembers her name. They sit together. He asks about Ronald, believes he is taking advantage of her by living in her house without paying rent, any expenses. She reveals that throughout the time he has lived with her, they haven't had a single intimate relationship. As she perceives herself as unattractive, different from him physically, Tina tells her father she enjoys having him around because she hates being alone at home. At night, Tina returns home, tells Ronald she visited her father today. His condition is deteriorating to the point where he won't recognize her. One day it is clear that Ronald is not fond of Tina. All he cares about is living with her without spending anything. The next day Tina meets with her direct supervisor Agnetha, who informs her that the chip is filled with child pornography. Tina is puzzled about how she could identify the chip since it was the first time she had seen him. Agnetha expresses curiosity about what is inside it, but Tina explains that she can smell such things, feel the emotions of those in front of her, whether sexual, angry, or even psychological. Agnetha takes her to her office, reveals the young man denies all the charges against him. However, she suspects he knows who is making the films, which is why she searched his phone, found he frequently travels to areas outside the city. She informs Tina she cannot obtain a search warrant because there is no specific criminal to arrest. Therefore, she assigns her this task to track down those involved in making the films. The next day, Tina encounters the same person again, but this time she requests a personal search because she smells a scent she cannot identify, making her uneasy around him. During the search, he reveals to her he is transgender. From his body parts it appears he is a woman. She notices he has a scar on his back. When Tina hears him mention the scar, she becomes alarmed, since she has the same scar on her back. She then apologizes to him, feeling guilty about this. He introduces himself as Vore, stating he is an entomologist who travels frequently, does not settle in one place for long. Later, Tina visits her father, asks about the scar on her back. He explains she fell on something sharp when she was 3 years old. They took her to the hospital, stitched her up. After that, we observe Vore getting ready for an urgent situation involving his pregnant wife who needs to be transferred to the hospital quickly. While driving, there is an unexpected stop. Their neighbor takes advantage of the situation, but they are surprised by the presence of a wild animal nearby. That night, Tina is sleeping when Ronald enters her room, tries to initiate an intimate relationship with her, but she rejects him. She throws him out, looks out the window, delighted to see an animal outside. The next day, Tina arrives at the hotel where Vore is staying, sees him in the garden collecting worms. She is surprised when he eats one in front of her, encourages her to try one despite rejecting it initially. After he puts one in her mouth, she surprisingly enjoys the taste. They talk about his life in the hotel. He mentions he doesn't like the place but has to stay there. By the end of the day, Tina brings Vore back to her home, introduces him to Ronald. She realizes Vore notices a mark on her face, tells him it was caused by a lightning strike when she was young. Vore also reveals he has the same mark on his chest. As they grow closer, he tries to kiss her, but she panics, says she is tired, needs to sleep. She quickly leaves, indicating Ronald isn't happy with Vore's presence. The following day, Tina is monitoring the suspect's apartment with her colleague. When they notice the apartment owners have left, they decide to enter quickly to search it. Before they return, they sneak into the apartment. Tina finds a crib, realizing a child was recently there. She then enters the office, focuses on searching for any clues. When She finds a cup that contains a hidden camera showing videos of children being tortured. Afterward, they interrogate the apartment owner Patrick. Agnetha inquires about the child's bed she found in the apartment. Despite Patrick's claims of having no children, he explains he used to have a 1-year-old under his care. They could verify his story with social services. While reviewing the video footage, he states he knows nothing about it, but Agnetha informs him there are fingerprints DNA on the camera. When she asks about the girl in the video, he indicates he may be familiar with her but doesn't confess to having filmed it. After returning home, Tina confronts Ronald about Vore, questions his strange behavior, noting he often leaves his room at odd times. That same day, Tina's exhaustion at work becomes apparent when her colleague hears a rattling sound, but she cannot detect any odor. He suggests she take a break later that night. While with Vore, he tells her she has managed to adapt to humans, her stable job, home life. Prove it, he explains. Humans fear them because they know the monster is coming. He tells Tina he knows nothing about her family, but he believes experiments were conducted on him in the 1970s that allowed him to survive for 10 years after the torture he endured. He insists all humans are evil, she should never depend on them. The best example is her father lied to her for her whole life. As dawn breaks, Tina drives to visit her father, where she tells him she has always thought of herself as ugly, that no one was disgusted by her. Her father suddenly gets angry with her for talking back. She breaks down crying, asking about her real family. At that moment, a nurse enters, indicates the visit is over, prompting Tina to leave. In tears, she returns home angry at Ronald, throws a television into the street, informing him he can no longer live with her, gives him a time limit to gather his things before she wakes up. Later, Tina visits Vore in his room. Out of curiosity, notices he has locked the fridge tightly. He replies everyone has their own privacy. This raises suspicion for Tina. A little later, she returns to his room but is then startled to find something strange peeking out from the fridge. When she opens it, she discovers a box containing a small child with a strange, frightening appearance. Alarmed, she quickly shuts the fridge. The next day, during an interrogation with Patrick, his accomplice claims they didn't harm any children, that they only filmed them. He then explains he saw the person who asked them to shoot once, that he was the one who brought the children to them in the police car. Patrick is suddenly attacked by an animal, snatched away, brutally killed by someone. Tina arrives at the crime scene, horrified by what happened. She then inquires about the child in the fridge. They reply the figure is not a child but a non-fertilized egg. As long as it stays in the fridge, it is safe. He reveals he is the one who created it, that they regularly take them from him, feeding them worms. Although they resemble real children closely, they don't live long. Tina expresses her disgust at having to keep them, rebukes the man. He is a monster. Shocked, disturbed, she leaves the room. On the following day, she wakes up in the woods beginning to eat worms off trees when suddenly an ambulance passes by her neighbor Esther's house. She enters to check what's happening, angrily accuses Vore of being responsible. She rushes to his room but finds him missing. Even the box is absent. Instead, she finds a note left by him stating she is not human, instructing her to meet him on the boat. When she arrives, Vore is relieved to see her, expresses surprise she followed his instructions. He tells her it's time for their kind to unite, attract more of them. Tina objects, telling him she does not partake in anything evil, hates harming others. She informs the police, attempts to arrest him, but Vore outsmarts them, jumps into the water. Afterward, Tina meets her father, learns the truth about herself. He reveals he worked in a mental health facility where he met her family, offered to raise her with care. He tells her name was Riva, mentions her family was buried in an old cemetery behind the main building. She then goes to their grave, plants flowers. Later, she finds herself confused in front of her house. She opens the door, stunned by what she sees. A large creature appears before her. She takes it in, intending to raise it. When she sees it is hungry, she feeds it worms, and the child's smile